SpaceX's 18th human spaceflight mission, and before Axiom Mission 4, SpaceX had flown 66 crew members, meaning that this mission brings that count to 70.
That's incredible. You know, missions like this are important milestones for everyone involved, from the crew members who fly, to those that they represent, and to the host of scientists and engineers around the world who have an opportunity for their research or their technology to be tested in microgravity. Everyone learns from these missions. And for Axiom Space, this is at the heart of why we do these missions. We are building opportunities for others to advance what is possible and expand what is known. We want to enable every human everywhere to take part in this. Now, after a beautiful launch on June 25th, the AX-4 crew docked with the International Space Station a little over a day later, opening the hatch and greeting the Expedition 73 crew on June 26th. The crew shared some good words and a welcoming ceremony before quickly getting to work on their extensive itinerary. Now, each crew member brought with them a host of research, technology demonstrations, and outreach objectives, ranging from human physiology to space radiation impact studies, and even some gardening. Now, this crew maintained a very full timeline, but they prepared for this. Each crew member wanted to ensure that every minute of this mission was utilized well, and that all objectives were hit. So Peggy, Shooks, Suave, and Tibor were ready to work. And over the course of 18 days on board the station, they accomplished over 60 research activities, as well as more than 20 outreach events. And as their time on station came to a close, the AX-4 crew participated in a brief farewell ceremony where they said their goodbyes to the Expedition 73 crew. Now, for more details on the incredible work performed by this crew on orbit, check out axiomspace.com.
Now, at this time, the crew is getting closer to reaching the approach ellipsoid, so let's head back to Anna at Johnson Space Center to step through these next moments. How's it going, Anna?
Thanks, Jesse and John, and thank you for that update. We are continuing to stand by for Dragon to exit the approach ellipsoid. We are expecting that exit to take place about 3 minutes from now, around 6:34 a.m. Central, 7:34 a.m. Eastern. Dragon is currently about 700 meters away from the International Space Station, following a physical separation about 16 minutes ago at 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern. The approach ellipsoid is one of several safety zones set up to govern spacecraft arriving and departing from the International Space Station, similar to the Keep Out sphere, which Dragon exited about 10 minutes ago at 6:21 a.m. Central, 7:21 a.m. Eastern. But unlike the Keep Out sphere, which is an invisible 200-meter line centered on the space station, the approach ellipsoid is a three-dimensional ellipsoid measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. When a spacecraft is outside the approach ellipsoid, they have to be on what we call a 24-hour safe free drift trajectory. This means the spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours again, even if it lost all maneuvering. And after the crew and Dragon exited the Keep Out sphere about 10 minutes ago, we heard that the crew was beginning to step through procedures to take off their spacesuits and settle in for their roughly 22-and-a-half-hour journey until a splashdown off the coast of California tomorrow, Tuesday, July 15th. And we are just continuing to stand by for confirmation of approach ellipsoid exit. Once Dragon exits the approach ellipsoid, the team here in Mission Control Houston will continue to monitor every step of the way, but prime responsibility once they exit that boundary will be transferred to the SpaceX and Axiom Space teams. Dragon is now about 860 meters away from the International Space Station and continuing to increase that distance between the two vehicles.
Coming in from the homecoming of the Axiom 4 crew, Shubhanshu Shukla and 3 other astronauts are on their way returning to Earth. They are going to be splashing down at about 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time tomorrow. It is a 22.5-hour journey that this crew is going to undertake. The next 30 minutes are going to be crucial. That's when the first milestone is going to be covered by this particular crew.
For those of you who are just joining us, we began our coverage of the Axiom mission for departure activities earlier this morning with hatch closure. That hatch close took place around 4:07 a.m. Central, 5:07 a.m. Eastern. The crew donned or put on their spacesuits and settled in for the departure activities.
I have you loud and clear on the cabin mic.
That live commentary that's coming to the fore from NASA as they're all tracking what's transpiring there. Shrishti, my colleague, is also joining us to give us more perspective. Shrishti, that undocking has happened. They've left the International Space Station to make that journey back home. But we're given to understand that the first milestone is about 30 minutes from now. What can we expect over the next 22 hours?
So now the Dragon capsule has physically detached from the International Space Station, which is the term that we use, undocking. Now the Dragon capsule will initiate an automated sequence where we have 4 departure burns. Now these 4 departure burns basically means to fire the engines so that the spacecraft moves further and further away from the International Space Station and enters a slightly different orbit so that there is no collision between the two, and which is what we saw now. I think 2 of the departure burns have already been completed, and 30 minutes later we'll have the third and the 4th departure burn to put the Dragon capsule to an important trajectory on its return mission to Earth. And following the departure burns, all the 4 crew members will be able to actually come out of their pressurized suits and become more comfortable for the long journey home. And tomorrow around 2 p.m., which is when the re-entry process will begin with the deorbit phase. The deorbit phase is the crucial phase which puts the Dragon capsule into a trajectory back to Earth. It enters into an elliptical orbit and eventually falls back. But those conditions those details we'll get to know from NASA, because it's constantly monitoring the weather conditions. Now, important thing is that once the docking is completed and the 4 departure burns are completed, then the entire return journey will be taken care of by SpaceX as well as Axiom Space. As of now, NASA was actually monitoring the entire situation because the activities aboard the International Space Station come under the purview of NASA. But once it detaches from there, then Axiom Space and SpaceX will oversee the entire mission. As of now, everything looks good. The ground stations are monitoring the entire mission, and we are waiting for the 2 departure burns to begin shortly thereafter.
So that's what we are expecting in the next half an hour or so. Post that about 21-hour journey is going to be undertaken by these 4 crew members. Is this now the end of everything that they were to accomplish on board the ISS into their journey in space? The next 22 hours are going to be a more relaxing one for the crew before they splash down, Shrishti?
Definitely, the entire mission was expected to last for 14 days. It continued for a few days more, and now the Dragon capsule, as we are getting to know, is completely detached from the ISS and is moving further and further away. It's at a safe distance now for the return journey to begin. NASA and Axiom Space will close the live feed very soon once the departure burns are completed, and then we can all sit back and wait for the update tomorrow afternoon when the re-entry process really begins. The people who are watching this entire mission can also relax during that period, but also the 4 crew members who will get some time to rest and get out of their pressurized suits and become more comfortable for the journey back home. So yes, I think we will wait for more updates from NASA for that.
Right, actually for those updates, let's just cut across to this broadcast that's coming in live from NASA.
Current projections hold starting at 4:28 a.m. Eastern Time or 1:28 a.m. Pacific Time on Tuesday, July 15th. Axiom Space and SpaceX will pick up with live coverage of the conclusion of this AX-4 mission.
That's right, and should teams need to adjust the timing of the crew's return, it's our plan to go live about an hour before splashdown. So for the latest timing of the final stage of the AX-4 journey, please be sure to visit axiomspace.com and spacex.com for updates. So from all of us at Axiom Space, thank you to NASA for the incredible efforts made on this mission towards the shared goal of conducting meaningful work in low Earth orbit. This has been the mission to realize the return to human spaceflight for 3 incredible nations with big things on the horizon. So to our viewers in India, Poland, and Hungary, your crew members will be back on Earth soon, so stay tuned. And thank you for following their journey on board the International Space Station.
And thank you to all of you, the viewers, for tuning in today. We'll see you back here bright and early tomorrow morning for a splashdown of AX-4.
That was NASA handing over the following updates to SpaceX, to Axiom 4, that is going to be taking this forward. As far as NASA is concerned, it was overlooking the undocking procedure that was taking place from the Harmony module of the ISS of the Dragon spacecraft. Now that that has happened, it is up to the private entity to look at what transpires next, to take care of what happens over the next 22 hours before that splashdown off the coast of California. Shrishti, any challenges that SpaceX and Axiom should be aware of for the next one day, for the next 20 hours? Anything that could go wrong that they should foresee?
We expect everything to go smoothly. Remember how the SpaceX actually lifted off its rocket from the Kennedy Space Center. The entire mission went on very smoothly, so we expect the return mission to also proceed like that. SpaceX as well as the Dragon capsule has completed many space flights before, especially human space flights. Since its first test flight in the year 2020, it has flown to the International Space Station many times, carrying about 60 astronauts in multiple missions. So I do not think there's any need to worry, but space is an uncertain area, so we should keep out for updates from NASA, SpaceX as well as Axiom Space. The entire journey has been completely planned and it's entirely automated, so there is no crew control, and Dragon capsule is very is actually trained in carrying out these missions, so I do not think there's anything to worry about. Now the next update we should get tomorrow afternoon, when the re-entry process really begins. Now that is the most crucial phase, and that is what we should look out for. NASA as well as Axiom Space should be sharing the live visuals an hour before the actual re-entry process really begins, with the deorbital burn that we were talking about, where it lowers its altitude and which puts it into the final trajectory to fall and be captured by the Earth's gravity. Even the Dragon capsule also has a heat shield which protects the crew from those searing temperatures. As soon as the spacecraft hits the Earth's atmosphere, it really turns into a ball of fire. Then the parachutes will get deployed for a safe splashdown off the California coast. The rescue teams will be on standby. So yes, I think everything looks good now, and the weather conditions are also very favorable. So we should now really eagerly wait and to see more pictures of Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla once he splashes down along with the 3 other crew members aboard the Dragon capsule.
And CNN News 18 will be that destination to watch all those pictures as that action unfolds tomorrow at about 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time. But Shrishti, thank you so much for putting that in perspective for us and getting us the latest on that front. We'll keep a track of that and their return journey back home. Much more updates and news also coming up here on CNN News 18. But for now, a quick break.
Dangerous.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Okay, a statement coming in right now from Air India. This is about the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB report that was released over the weekend, the preliminary report that investigated why the air crash happened in the manner that it did in Ahmedabad. This is the statement that the Air India CEO Campbell Wilson has said. He said the report found no mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft or engines, and all mandatory maintenance tasks had been completed. There was no issue with the quality of fuel and no abnormality with the takeoff roll. The pilots had passed their mandatory pre-flight breathalyzer and there were no observations pertaining to their medical status. Now, he's also said, it's important to point, he's also said, I would also remind that out of an abundance of caution and under the oversight of the DGCA, every Boeing 787 aircraft operating in our fleet was checked within days of the accident and all were found fit. We continue to perform all necessary checks. This is the first statement we've got of this nature coming out post the probe report. We'll just go over to reporters to bring you more context. Remember, this is the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau report that came out. Again, it's just the preliminary report. It had just come out. We'll go over to reporters to understand a little bit more around it in just a second. We'll also tell you more about the key questions, because remember, that's what we focused on in the last few hours, the unanswered questions in this report and what it remains. Remember, the central conclusion right at the heart of that report and of this crash was this question of how the switches transitioned from run to cut-off position within a second of each other, moments after liftoff. And again, this report had highlighted that one of the pilots was recorded asking the other why he cut off the fuel, to which the other pilot responded saying he did not. More than that is not given in terms of transcript between the two pilots in that preliminary report. Now, we'll just go over to our colleague Anvit to understand more. Anvit, the first formal response of Air India CEO Campbell Wilson coming in, how do you read it? He's touched on a few different points. He's touched on the pilot's health. He's talked about the health of the aircraft. Just touch on each of the key points here, then we'll come to you with more questions.
First of all, I would like to start with the point that he has made that all the aircrafts were inspected. So, after this incident had happened, DGCA had issued an advisory asking Air India and other airlines to make sure that there are multi-layered inspections of the aircraft, which was done, and DGCA had also later on released a statement saying that majority of these aircrafts are found to be fit for operations. Also, he has made a point on the health of the pilots, and the report, the AIB report, also goes on to mention that the pilots had got adequate rest period, and also the crew that was called to perform duty on the flight, they were also found fit to operate. But when we come to the point of
Thank you for staying with us. This is Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. The story we're tracking at this hour is how your favorite samosas and jalebis could soon send you on a guilt trip, perhaps more than it already does, because it's now going to come with labels of how harmful they are. Not just from the oil that it's dripping, but now a board is going to be telling you exactly how much of trouble this samosa and jalebi is going to cause you. A small cup of tea might also carry a sugar warning. Now, this is a bid to tackle rising obesity and non-communicable diseases in the country, because of which the Union Health Ministry has directed government institutions to display oil and sugar warning boards. These informative posters or digital boards will be showing the hidden oil and sugar content in everyday snacks, urging for people to make healthier choices, especially in government-run cafeterias. Now, this initiative is a part of a broader push to reduce obesity. It comes in the wake of an alarming data that has come to the fore from the National Family Health Survey that shows that 1 in 5 adults in urban areas are overweight. The move aims to promote healthier diets, reduce healthcare costs, and improve overall well-being.
Well, if you're fond of samosas and jalebis, this report might be for you. And if you're somebody who really likes a lot of chini in your tea, then this report is for you. We have a lot of people here, and as we have got to know that the Health Ministry has ordered oil and sugar warning boards in cafeterias and public spaces. Now, these colored posters will spell out the hidden fat and sugar content in the popular Indian snacks, from pakoras and laddus to vada pav and gulab jamuns. Let's talk to a lot of people here who are with us here, and let's get to know how do they see this new step coming out from the Health Ministry. So, sir, जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि अब हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री ने ये लागू कर दिया है कि अब जितनी भी दुकानें होंगी उनके सामने पोस्टर्स लगा दिए जाएंगे जिसमें कि आपका ऑयल एंड शुगर कंटेंट मेंशन होगा. सो हाउ डू यू सी दिस एज अ मूव? बिकॉज आई कैन सी दैट यू आर हैविंग अ लॉट ऑफ फूड आइटम्स हियर. सो हाउ डू यू सी इट?
I would like to say, like, in today's health conscious world, like, it can be a very good move. Like, in this generation, the Gen Z is very care, like, they are very conscious about their health. If they are fit, looking fit, they are very health conscious. If they are looking good, wherever they go, they need to be perfect. So yeah, it's a very good step, I think. And if they put the calories, I guess, calories, sugar content, it would be very beneficial, especially for those who are very health conscious for themselves.
सर, केंद्र सरकार की तरफ से, स्वास्थ्य मंत्रालय की तरफ से एक लेटर भी लिखा गया और कहा गया कि जो कैंटीन में बहुत सारी चीज़ें उपलब्ध होती हैं उसमें डिस्प्ले करना ज़रूरी होगा कि कितना ज़्यादा ये ख़तरनाक है, कितना घातक है, ये तमाम चीज़ें, तेल कितना ज़्यादा है तो शुगर कितना ज़्यादा है. क्या आप मानते हैं? जैसे समोसा, जलेबी और बहुत सारी चीज़ें उपलब्ध होती हैं.
देखिए, अभी गाइडलाइंस इशू हुई है, बट ये गाइडलाइंस बहुत पहले से ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करती है कि हमें जो है कितना कार्बोहाइड्रेट लेना चाहिए, फैट लेना चाहिए, प्रोटीन जो है ये मेन मेजर कंपोनेंट होते हैं जो हम खाना खाते हैं, और तो इनको मैक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट बोलते हैं, कार्बोहाइड्रेट, फैट एंड आपका प्रोटीन. और उसके बाद माइक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट होते हैं जिनमें जो विटामिन्स होते हैं, वेरियस मिनरल्स होते हैं, कैल्शियम होता है, आयरन होता है, ये सब होता है. सो अभी मैं मैक्रो की बात कर रहा हूँ जिसकी आप बात कर रहे थे. हमेशा जो है कार्बोहाइड्रेट, फैट और इसका जो है एक प्रोपोर्शन ही लेना चाहिए. सिर्फ कार्बोहाइड्रेट बेस्ड डाइट होगी वो अभी अच्छी नहीं है, फैट बेस्ड डाइट हो गई हमारी वो अच्छी नहीं है. यूजुअली हम कहते हैं कि 20% जितना हमारा एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट है, जैसे एक एडल्ट आदमी को करीब 2400 किलो कैलोरी एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है, अगर मेल है तो उसके आसपास की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है, तो उसका 20% ही फैट से आना चाहिए.
Cardiologist Dr. Amar Amale joins us on this broadcast. Doctor, thank you so much for speaking with us here and for putting this in perspective for our viewers. Do you agree with this directive that has come to the fore from the government? Do you think this is the need of the hour for a country like ours?
Definitely, it's a perfect initiative. We all know the hazards of tobacco and alcohol, but nobody makes us aware about the hazards of oil and sugar. It's a non-communicable disease, the obesity and overweight. Obesity leads to hypertension, diabetes. Ultimately, this hypertension and diabetes leads to heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, and even malignancy. 50 years earlier, there were no heart attack in young. There was no malignancy in young. So our diet and lifestyle has been hampered by new generation food habits. So if we curb these new habits, we can bring down the epidemic of obesity and we can control a lot of diseases. And we already are a diabetic capital of the world is the need of the day. So I strongly urge that this full should be made a viral thing with the media and our efforts. We can bring down this epidemic of obesity to.
I believe we've lost that line with Dr. Amale. We'll try and reconnect that, but he was getting us perspective of why really it's required, and that's something that the Union Health Ministry has also pointed to, that in the next 25 years, by 2050, India could be facing an epidemic of obesity. We could be the second largest country where this is a crisis. Before we reach that stage, we should take corrective measures, we should take preventive measures. That's really the aim of this kind of directive that has come to the fore from the Union Health Ministry. What it also does is not only does it ask for these warning labels on sugary sweets, on daily snacks that are deep fried, but it also calls for more exercise, especially among the youth. This ties in with the recent reports that we have seen over the last couple of years of increasing heart attacks, of cardiac arrests among the young, especially those within the age of 35. Lifestyle changes need to be made, and this is an initiative in that direction as far as the central government is concerned. My colleague, in fact, has been reporting from on ground, getting us voices of how exactly this is going to be affecting everyday life and how those who are affected are taking in this decision. Listen in.
Well, if you're fond of samosas and jalebis, this report might be for you. And if you're somebody who really likes a lot of chini in your tea, then this report is for you. We have a lot of people here, and as we have got to know that the Health Ministry has ordered oil and sugar warning boards in cafeterias and public spaces. Now, these colored posters will spell out the hidden fat and sugar content in the popular Indian snacks from pakoras and laddus to vada pav and gulab jamuns. Let's talk to a lot of people here who are with us here, and let's get to know how do they see this new step coming out from the Health Ministry. So, sir, जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि अब हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री ने ये लागू कर दिया है कि अब जितनी भी दुकानें होंगी उनके सामने पोस्टर्स लगा दिए जाएंगे जिसमें कि आपका ऑयल एंड शुगर कंटेंट मेंशन होगा. सो हाउ डू यू सी दिस एज अ मूव, बिकॉज आई कैन सी दैट यू आर हैविंग अ लॉट ऑफ फूड आइटम्स हियर, सो हाउ डू यू सी इट?
I would like to say, like, in today's health conscious world, like, it can be a very good move. Like, in this generation, the Gen Z is very like, they are very conscious about their health. If they are fit, looking fit, they are very health conscious. If they are looking good, wherever they go, they need to be perfect. So yeah, it's a very good step, I think. And if they put the calories, I guess, calories, sugar content, it would be very beneficial, especially for those who are very health conscious for themselves.
Dr. Amar Amale is back with us on the broadcast. Sir, I believe we had some connection issues with you earlier, but like you were saying, this is a step in the right direction. But I want to ask you, do you think it is going to be easy to implement this kind of order? I mean, a lot of these places, a lot of these sweet shops or places where you would get a samosa, jalebi or kachori, these deep fried snacks, a lot of them are unrecognized, are smaller stores. For them to be putting out these kind of warnings, or for the government to ensure that they do, that's going to be a mammoth task, isn't it?
See, health is your own responsibility. You and me can, display the disclaimers. You and me can put warnings, but it's up to you what to consume, what not to consume. So we cannot spoon feed people about all the instructions. In today's world, everybody's health is his own concern. So this is how it will going to work. We have a democracy. We'll display the samosas. We'll display the fat content. We'll display the sugar content in jalebi, and we'll also display what the side effects it causes. But it's up to you how much you consume and how much you have to avoid.
You know, up until now, these kind of warnings only came perhaps on a box of cigarettes. Do you think this is something that is equally bad? This is something that requires the same kind of warning labels, the same kind of attention, because it could be as fatal as cigarettes would be?
Exactly. Sugar is a white poison. What it does at micro level, we are not aware of it. So in today's world, where we are the diabetic capital, we should be very much concerned about what we are consuming and what we should be avoiding. So again, just like I said, if this awareness spreads like a viral thing with the use of media and our doctors' efforts, even if 10 out of 100 gets influenced by this, it will make a big difference in long term in our social demographic profile.
Right, Dr. Amale, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18 and sharing that perspective. We'll have to see how really people on ground, people across the country take to this kind of directive that has come to the fore. For now, it's time for a quick break though on this edition of Nation at 5. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
This is The Drive. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Okay, a statement coming in right now from Air India. This is about the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB report that was released over the weekend, the preliminary report that investigated why the air crash happened in the manner that it did in Ahmedabad. This is the statement that the Air India CEO Campbell Wilson has said. He said the report found no mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft or engines, and all mandatory maintenance tasks had been completed. There was no issue with the quality of fuel and no abnormality with the takeoff roll. The pilots had passed their mandatory pre-flight breathalyzer and there were no observations pertaining to their medical status. Now, he's also said, it's important to point, he's also said, I would also remind that out of an abundance of caution and under the oversight of the DGCA, every Boeing 787 aircraft operating in our fleet was checked within days of the accident and all were found fit. We continue to perform all necessary checks. This is the first statement we've got of this nature coming out post the probe report. We'll just go over to reporters to bring you more context. Remember, this is the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau report that came out. Again, it's just the preliminary report. It had just come out. We'll go over to reporters to understand a little bit more around it in just a second. We'll also tell you more about the key questions, because remember, that's what we focused on in the last few hours, the unanswered questions in this report and what it remains. Remember, the central conclusion right at the heart of that report and of this crash was this question of how the switches transitioned from run to cut-off position within a second of each other, moments after liftoff. And again, this report had highlighted that one of the pilots was recorded asking the other why he cut off the fuel, to which the other pilot responded saying he did not. More than that is not given in terms of transcript between the two pilots in that preliminary report. Now we'll just go over to our colleague Anvit to understand more. Anvit, the first formal response of Air India CEO Campbell Winsell coming in, how do you read it? He's touched on a few different points. He's touched on the pilot's health. He's talked about the health of the aircraft. Just touch on each of the key points here, then we'll come to you with more questions.
See, first of all, I would like to start with the point that he has made that all the aircrafts were inspected. So after this incident had happened, DGCA had issued an advisory asking Air India and other airlines to make sure that there are multi-layered inspections of the aircraft, which was done, and DGCA had also later on released a statement saying that majority of these aircrafts are found to be fit for operations. Also, he has made a point on the health of the pilots, and the report, the AIB report, also goes on to mention that the pilots had got adequate rest period, and also the crew that was called to
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5. We have news now coming in from Beijing, where the Foreign Ministers SCO Summit is currently underway. External Affairs Minister of India S. Jaishankar sat down with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi just a short while ago. Here are the opening remarks from that bilateral meeting.
阁下，我很高兴来参加上合组织外长会议期间跟您见面。我感谢您的热情接待。
Let me wish the Chinese side a successful SCO presidency. We will be meeting tomorrow, and India is committed to ensuring good outcomes and decisions.
我祝愿中方担任上合组织轮值主席国取得成功。我们明天开会，印度致力于确保取得良好的结果和决策。
Our bilateral relationship requires that we take a far-seeing approach to our ties. Since our leaders' meeting in Kazan in October 2024, the India-China relationship has been gradually moving in a positive direction. Our responsibility is to maintain that momentum.
我们的双边关系要求我们以长远的眼光来看待关系。2024年10月在喀山的领导人会晤后，中印关系逐步朝着积极的方向发展。我们的责任是保持这一势头。
In recent times, as you have noted, Excellency, the two of us have had several opportunities to meet at international events and carry out strategic communication. It is our expectation that this will now be regular and take place in each other's countries.
阁下，您刚才提到，最近我们两个有几次机会在国际会议场合见面，进行战略沟通。我们期待接下来我们能够定期的在彼此的国家进行这样的沟通。
This year, we are marking the 75th year of the establishment of diplomatic relations between our two countries. We appreciate that the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra has also resumed after a gap of 5 years. I thank the Chinese side for their cooperation on this matter.
这年两国庆祝建交75周年，我们很高兴时隔5年后恢复朝圣。我感谢中方的合作。
Excellency, we have made good progress in the past 9 months for the normalization of our bilateral relations. It is the result of the resolution of friction along the border and our ability to maintain peace and tranquility there. This is the fundamental basis of our mutual strategic trust and for smooth development of bilateral relations. It is now incumbent on us to address other aspects related to the border, including de-escalation.
阁下，在过去9个月，我们在双边关系正常化方面取得了进展，这是解决边境摩擦，以及我们能够在那里维持和平与安宁的结果。这是战略互信和双边关系顺利发展的基本的基础。现在我们有责任应对边境相关的其他问题，包括降温。
As neighboring nations and major economies in the world today, there are various facets and dimensions of our ties. Measures towards normalizing our people-to-people exchanges can certainly foster mutually beneficial cooperation. It is also essential in this context that restrictive trade measures and roadblocks are avoided. I hope to discuss these issues with you in further detail.
作为邻国和今天世界上主要经济体，我们的双边关系有很多方面。正常化人文交流的措施一定能够促进互利合作。这个背景下，需要避免限制性的贸易措施和障碍。我想进一步的讨论这些问题。
Stable and constructive ties between India and China are not only to our benefit, but that of the world as well. This is best done by handling relations on the basis of mutual respect, mutual interest, and mutual sensitivity. We have also earlier agreed that differences should not become disputes, nor should competition ever become conflict. On this foundation, we can continue to develop our ties along a positive trajectory.
中国和印度之间稳定和建设性的关系，不仅对两国有利，也有利于整个世界。最好的做法是在相互尊重、相互利益和相互敏感的基础上处理双边关系。我们已经同意，分歧不应该成为争端，竞争也永远不应该成为冲突。在这个基础上，我们现在可以继续沿着积极的方向发展双边关系。
Excellency, our meeting today will also include an exchange of views on global and regional issues. Tomorrow, we will be meeting in the format of the SCO, whose primary mandate is to combat terrorism, separatism, and extremism. This is a shared concern, and India hopes that zero tolerance for terrorism will be strongly upheld.
阁下，今天我们还会就全球和地区问题交换意见。明天我们在上合组织的框架内见面。上合组织的主要任务是打击恐怖主义、分裂主义和极端主义。这个是我们共同关切的问题。印方希望能够坚决维护对恐怖主义零容忍。
Excellency, as Foreign Minister, you have been long responsible for our overall bilateral relations. I'm happy today to have this in-depth discussion on the state of our ties in an era of profound change. I look forward to a constructive and forward-looking exchange of views. Thank you.
Minister S. Jaishankar there reminding his Chinese counterparts that the main mandate of the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is to combat terror and to ensure regional peace, and that is a hope that India has will be done tomorrow when the SCO's foreign ministers meeting happens. Siddhant joining us, getting us more details on this. Siddhant, this reminder is also significant because the last time around when defense ministers of the SCO grouping met, there was no joint statement because India refused to sign a diluted statement. Hopefully now China gets the message.
Well, that's right. That's absolutely right, Poonam. In fact, last time around, the final draft, which was handed over to the Indian side, did not have the mention of Pahalgam terror attack and also the word cross-border terrorism. Perhaps when India uses the word cross-border terrorism, then it is a direct reference to Pakistan. In fact, a week back we saw that how BRICS condemned Pahalgam terror attack, and in fact that declaration also had the word cross-border movement of terrorism. So a day before the SCO foreign ministers meeting, perhaps EM S. Jaishankar, in his opening remarks, in a way, reminded China that how SCO is a grouping to fight terrorism, to counter terrorism, separatism, and extremism. And perhaps India hopes that there will be a zero tolerance policy towards terrorism. So all eyes are going to be on the SCO foreign ministers meet tomorrow, Poonam. Perhaps it would really be interesting to see that after India's refusal last time to sign the final draft, which was prepared by the Chinese side, whether this time around China changes the language of the draft, which will also be accommodating Indian side and India's concern, whether that draft will be reflecting the India side and India's concern, especially after Pahalgam terror attack. So that would really be interesting to see, and also whether India will be signing the draft, whether there's going to be the joint declaration or not. Other than this, Poonam, this visit of EM is very, very significant. This visit is also happening at a time when this is his first visit after the Kazan meet between the two leaders, and this visit is also happening at a time when China's major concern is Tibet issue. In fact, yesterday there was a statement also which came from Chinese embassy spokesperson saying that the Tibet issue is a thorn in India-China relationship. In fact, before this, also Chinese embassy, has spoken about how this could have an impact on the progress of relationship between the two countries. But India's top priority is the border dispute, Poonam, and terrorism. So last time around, at the time of Raksha Mantri's visit, India's readout made it very clear that what India is looking for right now is a solution, permanent solution to the border dispute. Perhaps it would really be interesting to see whether right after this meeting with Wang Yi, whether there's going to be a readout, whether there's going to be the follow-up of Rajnath Singh's meeting with the Defense Minister of China. Back to you.
Right, Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. We'll keep a track of what's transpiring at that crucial meeting in Beijing, where India has made it clear that terror has to be fought unitedly and China cannot take Pakistan's side every time Pakistan decides to nudge them on this. We'll, of course, have to see what happens at the SCO grouping's foreign ministers meeting tomorrow. But for now, it is time for a quick break on this edition of Nation at 5.
Brought to you by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Okay, a statement coming in right now from Air India. This is about the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB report that was released over the weekend, the preliminary report that investigated why the air crash happened in the manner that it did in Ahmedabad. This is the statement that the Air India CEO Campbell Wilson has said. He said the report found no mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft or engines, and all mandatory maintenance tasks had been completed. There was no issue with the quality of fuel and no abnormality with the takeoff roll. The pilots had passed their mandatory pre-flight breathalyzer and there were no observations pertaining to their medical status. Now, he's also said, it's important to point, he's also said, I would also remind that out of an abundance of caution and under the oversight of the DGCA, every Boeing 787 aircraft operating in our fleet was checked within days of the accident and all were found fit. We continue to perform all necessary checks. This is the first statement we've got of this nature coming out post the probe report. We'll just go over to reporters to bring you more context. Remember, this is the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau report that came out. Again, it's just the preliminary report. It had just come out. We'll go over to reporters to understand a little bit more around it in just a second. We'll also tell you more about the key questions, because remember, that's what we focused on in the last few hours. The unanswered questions in this report and what it remains. Remember, the central conclusion right at the heart of that report and of this crash was this question of how the switches transitioned from run to cut-off position within a second of each other, moments after liftoff. And again, this report had highlighted that one of the pilots was recorded asking the other why he cut off the fuel, to which the other pilot responded saying he did not.
Welcome back. As a preliminary report of the Aircraft and Accident Investigation Bureau seems to hang in between a possible technical error involving fuel control switches and a suspected confusion among pilots of what exactly transpired, the Indian Commercial Pilots Association has firmly rejected the tone and tenor of this report that they claim suggests a bias towards pilot error. It further reiterated the demand for pilot representation as an observer in this probe team, stressing the need for transparency and accountability. Backing the concerns of the pilots, former Civil Aviation Secretary has also raised red flags, lending weight to calls for more accountability before the final report is submitted. But Air India CEO Campbell Wilson has pointed that this preliminary report did not find any mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft, that the engines there was no abnormality as far as the engines go during takeoff. Meanwhile, following the report's release, airlines across India have now begun inspecting their fuel lock systems on their fleets. Significantly, Etihad Airways, which operates Boeing 787s like the one involved in this particular tragedy, has issued a directive urging extra caution with fuel control switches and ordered mechanism inspections like the FAA had directed or advised to several years ago back in 2018.
I mean, I would go along with their objection because there should be a senior pilot dealing with who has dealt with 787, Dreamliner or Boeing, or even 737, a person who's experienced in this kind of aircraft. He should be there. That way, I think they should now include it if they pointed it out.
Your first reaction when the, and I have to tell you this, Priyanka Chaturvedi, Member of Parliament, has also now written to the Civil Aviation Minister saying the way this report has been leaked and the way motive is being insinuated on part of the pilots, it's unfair and intervention is required. Your first reaction?
Well, it's too early to put a blame on anyone. And I have been hearing it on the television, some retired captains, they are coming and attributing it. Well, I do not know their understanding of the report. But the fact remains that a substantive but a preliminary report has been submitted by the AAIB with a factual situation and what all happened in the aircraft and the timings and the processes and the failure has been denoted. But beyond that, the AAIB in its report has not apportioned the blame on A or B. In that situation, analyzing and coming back and putting a blame on the captains per se is unfair. Whether the captains, whether the company, whether Boeing company or for the management or for Air India, it's very, very unfair. They are the rightful body. They would have international consultations. They would be able to analyze the wreckage. They would be able to analyze what actually happened in the cockpit, and which they have done beautifully. It is for them to put on a piece of paper whose fault was it. Whatever time they take, they should come.
Now, this is a preliminary report that came out in the wee hours of Friday and Saturday morning. Several questions, in fact, still remain unanswered. There is a final report that is awaited, and many, including several pilot bodies, are hoping that those findings are not the same as the prelim report. But here's what the prelim report fails to explain, which is why many say that there are more questions than answers in this report. The trigger of the switch movement. It is unclear if it was moved deliberately, if there was any accidental malfunction that took place. There is no explanation as to how exactly the fuel switches on both ends went up and went down within the span of a second. There's insufficient cockpit data as well. That's something that is being looked at. A single exchange is mentioned in the entire report between the two pilots. It doesn't include any conversations. It does not say who the pilot is who was asking who switched the fuel off. It does not respond to who the other pilot was, if it was the one who was actually the pilot at the moment or was the pilot monitoring. There is no reference to a cockpit camera footage as well. It exists on a Boeing 787. So what happened to that footage? What happened to the video, not just to the audio, is a question that still remains unanswered. The FAA advisory, like I was pointing out, back from 2018, Was that not acted upon as far as the switch locking is concerned? It was flagged. Now, the compliance was only advisory. It wasn't mandatory. But is that something that was looked at in this particular aircraft by this particular airline? That's something that hasn't been spoken of as well. All of these questions we hope to find answers to when that final report does come out. Anvit, my colleague, is joining us, getting us more details on that. Now, Anvit, like I was pointing out, the mystery continues to deepen as far as the prelim report goes. There are several questions that still remain unanswered. Is there a timeline of when the final report will be submitted with the hope that these questions are answered then?
Poonam, it will certainly take some time. It can take months and also more than a year. We have seen previously how such investigations are done elaborately, and therefore the timeline actually goes beyond a year also. But as far as this report is concerned, in the epicenter of this report now is the engine fuel switch, and everyone has been talking since the beginning because the theory that it was a dual engine failure that has been established by this. But at the same time, like you mentioned, there are apprehensions from the pilot body and from other organizations as to because the kind of report it has been made public. The pilot body is saying that there is no undersigned in the report. Usually there has to be a mention of that who are the people who are investigating this matter. There should be undersigned mentioned in the report. They are also saying that there was no representation from their side. What they believe is that there should have been a pilot on board who has previously operated 787 Boeing, so his expertise could be used in the investigation. Another point they have made is the transcript between the pilot that has been made public. It is only a one-liner that the one pilot asks the other whether did you make the transition of the switch from run to cutoff, but the other pilot says no, I did not. But it is not known as to in whose order or whose command was at that time the plane was, whether it was pilot command or was it the first officer. So that is also not known. So there are multiple things that are not known at present, and this is also one reason why the pilot body are apprehensive regarding this. In fact, they have also raised question upon at the time of release of the report. Some are saying that there could have been an attempt to allow the foreign media to first have access to this report, and that is why it was released beyond midnight. So there are apprehensions, but see, if we talk about the report, what it has to reveal, it clearly says that these are initial findings and the later findings will be followed. It clearly mentions that the components of interest from wreckage and equipment are pending further examinations. They have been identified and quarantined. It also says that fuel samples from auxiliary power unit will be tested at a suitable facility and is undergoing such tests. The data downloaded from the forward FDR is also being analyzed, and that is also under consideration now. So certain things are yet to be analyzed, and also very importantly, it has not clearly said that the transition from run to cutoff was manual or was it mechanical. So the ministry officials and the DGC officials are saying that so far it is not correct to put the blame on the pilot or to make speculation that the investigation is putting blame on pilot. It will only be clear if further investigation is done and when the detailed report will be out.
Right, Anvit, thank you so much for putting that in perspective for us. Shifting focus now to Karnataka, where the government has announced its decision to boycott the inauguration of the Sigandur Bridge today. In fact, they were not in presence when that bridge was inaugurated. They cited concerns over protocol violations and alleged interference by the union government. Chief Minister of Karnataka, Siddaramaiah, slammed the central government's actions, accusing them of sowing discord between the state and the centre. He revealed that local Congress MLAs, along with District in Charge Minister and the Public Works Department Minister, would not attend this inauguration. The Chief Minister further stated that he had personally contacted Union Minister Nitin Gadkari requesting for the event to be postponed, to which Nitin Gadkari had initially agreed, but the Congress claims that there was pressure from local BJP leaders, which is why the centre decided to go ahead with the inauguration.
ಇವತ್ತು ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನನಗೆ ಕರೆದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನೇ ನಿತಿನ್ ಗಡ್ಕರಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ನಿತಿನ್ ಗಡ್ಕರಿ ಅವರು ನಾನು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪತ್ರ ಬರೆದೆ ನಾನು. ಆದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತೀಯ ಜನತಾ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಲೀಡರ್ಗಳು ಬಹುಶಃ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಹಾಕಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಅವರು ನನಗೇನೂ ಹೇಳ್ದೇನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ನಿಗದಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದಂಥ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇಂಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇತ್ತು. ಅದು ಒಂದು ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲೇ ನಿಗದಿಯಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಶಂಕುಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಪ್ರತಿಭಟನಾರ್ಥವಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮಿಂದ ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ. PWD ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರು ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರು ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಗರದ MLA ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ.
Some more news now trickling in. This is to do as a fallout of the AI-171 crash report that came out over the weekend. DGCA has now issued fuel control check directives for several aircraft, including Boeing. It's been made mandatory, has to be completed within 21st July of this year, which means they have another week to finish these mandatory checks. The DGCA, which is a regulatory body in India, has now directed all of the airlines that operate in India to mandatorily undertake these checks. This comes at a time when the report that was submitted by the AIB in the AI-171 crash that claimed the lives of 260 people. There was an FAA advisory from 2018 that was in focus and why that advisory was not paid heed to. In the light of that, now the DGCA has decided that the fuel control checks have to be made by all airlines for all aircraft that are run by Boeing. And there is a timeline that's been set as well. Anvit joins us, getting us more details. Anvit, 21st is the date before which all of these checks have to be completed?
Yes, exactly. Poonam, DGCA has issued a fuel control inspection directive for Boeing and also other aircrafts, and a mandatory completion date has been set as July 21, 2025 has been set as a completion date. Now, the DGCA has issued an important safety directive for all Indian registered aircrafts, also mandating the completion of inspection as specified under the Special Airworthiness Information Bulletin.
Right.
And now, we were earlier talking in the day that, some multiple, like South Korea has also initiated such an effort, and Etihad has also given out an advisory to carry out such inspections. And we had reported earlier in the day that Airworthiness Department in the DGCA will come out with such a directive. Now,
Right.
this directive...
So that directive has now come to the fore from the DGCA. Anvit, thank you so much for getting us the latest. It's a wrap from my side. Shivani joins you next.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The Kagaz Nahi Dikhayenge campaign in Bihar is refusing to die down despite the Supreme Court not curtailing the special intensive revision of the voter roll. But while political parties may not be backing down, so isn't the Election Commission. EC sources say they are finding widespread addition of foreign nationals or illegals in the Bihar voter list, and they will make sure that they are removed. Now, RJD leader Tejashwi Yadav has once again attacked the election body and its supposed sources, but his jibe has not gone down too well for its language. Yadav has mocked the EC using a urine jibe in Hindi, inviting a sharp political response from the BJP. Apart from the politics though, the threat of illegals creeping into voter lists is a matter of grave concern, not something that has been said in so many words for the first time. But this threatens our democracy in possibly the most fundamental way. Imagine non-Indians voting. That's the one criteria of whether you get to vote or not, apart from age, of course. It frankly doesn't matter who they are voting for. No party should be seen as soft on this matter. But is the opposition then playing politics on this sensitive issue in Bihar? Should India and the India bloc not be worried by what the Election Commission is suggesting and actually support this exercise on ground? We'll take that and more with our guests joining us in just a bit. First up, a breakdown of what we are learning as far as the Election Commission sources are concerned. They're saying that their booth-level officers have found a significant number of individuals from Nepal, Bangladesh and Myanmar possessing Indian documents such as Aadhaar, even domicile certificates and ration cards during the ongoing special intensive revision exercise. Sources say that there will be a